An alien princess says we must marry. A human faces an unexpected destiny. HFY Story Sci-Fi HFY. The human ship Wayfarer drifted calmly at the edge of alien space, its engines quiet, its crew unaware that history was about to change. For Elias Moore, it was supposed to be another normal assignment. He was not a soldier, not a hero, and not important by galactic standards. He was a systems engineer assigned to help translate human technology for the Interstellar Council. That was all. Elias stood alone in the observation bay, watching a blue star pulse slowly in the distance. Space always made him feel small, but also calm. Humans had only joined the wider galaxy 10 years ago, and even now most alien species treated them like curious animals that had learned to talk. Elias had grown used to it. A soft chime echoed through the ship. "Elias Moore," the ship's AI said. "You are requested in the diplomatic chamber immediately." Elias frowned. "Diplomatic? I'm not a diplomat." "The request comes from a royal envoy," the AI replied. "Priority level absolute." That made his stomach tighten. Minutes later, Elias entered the chamber. It was larger than any room on a human ship, redesigned to impress alien guests. Tall crystal pillars glowed with soft light. At the center stood beings from several species, tall insect-like figures, smooth-skinned amphibians, and metallic synthetics that hummed quietly. And then there was her. She stood apart from the others, her posture straight and calm. She was humanoid, but clearly not human. Her skin shimmered like silver glass, her eyes deep violet, reflecting layers of light. She wore elegant armor shaped more like art than protection. A thin crown floated just above her head, glowing faintly. Elias stopped walking. The room felt heavier, as if space itself was holding its breath. An alien official stepped forward. "Elias Moore of Earth," it said. "You stand before Princess Valera of the Aurelian Empire." Elias swallowed. "It's an honor," he said, hoping his voice did not shake. The princess studied him in silence. Her gaze was not cold, but it was intense, as if she was looking through him rather than at him. Finally, she spoke. Her voice was smooth, calm, and perfectly translated into simple human words. "You are the one," she said. Elias blinked. "I'm sorry." A ripple of unease moved through the room. The princess stepped forward, her footsteps soundless. "By the laws of my people," she said, "and by the binding accords of the ancient prophecy, we must marry." The words hit Elias like a physical force. The chamber exploded into noise. Alien delegates shouted in shock. Some voices rose in anger, others in disbelief. A tall reptilian slammed its tail against the floor. A synthetic emitted sharp warning tones. Elias just stood there. "Marry," he repeated stupidly. The princess raised her hand and the room fell silent again. "This union is not a request," she said calmly. "It is a necessity." Elias' mind raced. This had to be a joke, a mistake, a translation error. "With respect," Elias said carefully, "I think there's been some confusion. I don't even know you. I'm not royal. I fix power grids." "That is irrelevant," the princess replied. "Your identity has been verified across probability layers." That did not help. One of the alien counselors leaned toward Elias. "Human," it hissed, "do you understand what this means? You are being bound to the most powerful empire in this sector." Elias looked around the room. Every eye, human and alien, was on him. "I didn't agree to anything," he said. "You were never meant to," the princess replied softly. "History rarely asks permission." A chill ran down Elias' spine. The human ambassador finally found his voice. "Princess Valera," he said, trying to sound calm, "human law does not recognize forced marriage. We require explanation." The princess turned to him. "Then I will explain." She gestured, and the air above the floor shimmered. A holographic star map appeared, stretching across the chamber. Entire regions glowed red. "Beyond your charts," she said, "there exists a force that devours civilizations. It cannot be reasoned with. It cannot be stopped by strength alone. Every empire that has faced it has fallen." Elias stared at the map. Some of the red zones were ancient, others were frighteningly recent. The galaxy survives, the princess continued, because we delay the inevitable, we predict, we plan. We sacrifice entire worlds to buy time. The room was silent now. But prediction has limits, she said, and the enemy has learned our patterns. Elias felt a strange knot in his chest. What does this have to do with me? The princess's eyes met his. Humans are not predictable, she said. Several aliens shifted uncomfortably. You are irrational, she continued. You act without certainty. You persist after logic declares failure. You adapt when adaptation should be impossible. That doesn't sound like praise, Elias muttered. It is survival, she replied. She moved closer to him, close enough that he could see faint patterns of light moving beneath her skin. The prophecy speaks of a union, she said, not of bloodlines but of mindsets. Order bound to chaos, calculation bound to will. Elias shook his head. I'm just one person. And yet, she said, you represent your species more clearly than any ruler. The council erupted again, but this time the anger was sharper. A human cannot be trusted, one alien shouted. They destroy themselves, another added. They are dangerous. The princess turned slowly, her voice cutting through the noise. Yes, she said, that is why they matter. The word dangerous echoed in Elias' mind. He had heard it before. Humans were always dangerous, too emotional, too stubborn, too willing to die for ideas. He took a deep breath. What happens if I say no? He asked quietly. The princess did not hesitate. Then the galaxy continues on its current path, she said. And eventually there will be no one left to refuse anything. The weight of her words pressed down on him. This isn't fair, Elias said. No, she agreed. It is not. The ship shuddered suddenly. Alarms blared. A council guard shouted, incoming energy spike. The star map flickered. One of the red zones expanded. Before anyone could react, a section of the chamber wall ruptured. Energy burned through crystal and steel. Debris flew across the room. Elias was thrown to the floor. Smoke filled the air. Screams echoed. Through the chaos, a shadow moved, fast, precise, deadly. An assassin. Alien security froze for a split second, trying to predict the attacker's path. Elias did not. He saw the princess turn just as the attacker raised a weapon. Elias moved. He grabbed a fallen energy conduit and hurled it with everything he had. It was not planned. It was not logical. It worked. The conduit struck the attacker mid-motion, disrupting its shield. Security fire followed instantly, and the assassin fell. The chamber went still. Elias stood there, breathing hard, staring at what he had done. Slowly, the princess turned to face him. For the first time, her expression changed. Not surprise, respect. You see, she said softly. Elias looked at his shaking hands. I didn't think, he said. That, she replied, is exactly why you are vital. Outside the ship, far beyond human sensors, something vast and ancient shifted its attention. And for the first time in a very long time, it noticed humanity. The days after the attack passed in a strange blur for Elias Moore. He was moved from the human ship Wayfarer to an Aurelian escort vessel, so large it felt like a moving city. The walls glowed softly, changing color with the mood of the ship. Everything was quiet, controlled, and carefully planned, nothing like human ships filled with noise, clutter, and improvisation. Elias noticed that everywhere he went, he was watched. Aurelian guards followed him at a respectful distance. Council observers studied him from balconies and glass chambers. Even the ship's artificial system seemed to pause when he entered a room, as if measuring him. He did not feel important. He felt trapped. Elias sat alone in a private chamber designed for guests. The furniture adjusted itself to his body, but it could not ease the tension in his chest. His life on Earth felt like it belonged to someone else now. He wondered if anyone had even told his family what was happening. A soft tone sounded, and the door opened. Princess Valera entered without guards. She moved with calm purpose, her presence filling the room without effort. Elia stood up quickly, unsure of the proper protocol. "You don't have to do that," she said. Elias hesitated, then sat back down. "You keep saying things like that, but nothing else about this situation feels optional." She regarded him quietly. "You are afraid." "Yes," Elias said honestly, "and confused and a little angry." "That is understandable," she replied. She took a seat across from him, folding her hands. "You want answers." "I want the truth," Elias said. "Not prophecies, not vague warnings. Why humans? Why me?" Valera raised her hand, and the wall beside them became transparent. Space appeared, filled with distant stars and slow-moving ships. "My people once believed the universe was a puzzle," she said. "Every event had a cause, every future could be calculated." She paused. "We were wrong." The stars shifted, replaced by images of alien worlds, cities burning, planets cracked open, civilizations collapsing. "The enemy you glimpsed during the attack is only a fragment," she said. "The true threat exists across dimensions of time and probability. It learns. It adapts faster than logic." Elias frowned. "So why haven't you beaten it?" "Because we are predictable," Valera said. "Every advanced species eventually becomes so focused on efficiency that it loses flexibility. We plan perfectly and die perfectly." Elias looked at the images again. "And humans are different." "Yes." She turned to face him fully. "Your history is chaotic. You fight wars you should lose. You survive disasters you should not. You break your own rules when survival demands it." "That sounds like bad planning," Elias said. Valera's eyes shimmered. "It is freedom." She gestured, and new images appeared. Human colonists repairing machines with mismatched parts, soldiers shielding strangers, scientists risking everything on uncertain ideas. "You do not wait for certainty," she said. "You act." Elias felt uncomfortable seeing his species reduced to patterns. "That still doesn't explain the marriage." "The union is symbolic and functional," Valera said. "It forces cooperation at the deepest level, shared authority, shared risk, shared future." Elias stood and began pacing. "You're asking me to become a symbol for an entire galaxy." "Yes." "That's insane." "Yes," she agreed again. Before Elias could respond, the ship shuddered. This time it was not an attack. An Aurelian officer's voice echoed through the chamber. "Princess, the council is convening. Immediate attendance required." Valera stood. "Come with me." "I don't think they want me there," Elias said. "They do not," she replied, "which is precisely why you must attend." The council chamber was vast, circular, and layered with rising platforms. Hundreds of delegates filled the space. The moment Elias stepped inside beside Valera, a wave of hostility rolled through the room. "This is a mistake," a tall avian alien shouted. "Humans are unstable." "They nearly destroyed their own world," another cried. "They cannot be trusted with galactic fate." Elias clenched his fists. He wanted to shout back, to defend humanity. Instead, he remembered something his father used to say: "Don't react, respond." Valera raised her voice. "You invited extinction by clinging to certainty." That silenced the room. An ancient being with crystalline skin floated forward. "Princess, even if humans possess this unpredictability, binding your empire to them risks everything." Valera gestured to Elias. "Ask him." All eyes turned to Elias. His mouth went dry. He took a slow breath. "I don't know how to save the galaxy," he said. "I don't know how to be royal. I don't even know if I want this." Murmurs spread. "But I do know this," he continued. "When humans see something wrong, we try to fix it, even if it costs us, even if we fail." He looked around the chamber. "You plan for survival. We survive by refusing to give up." Silence followed. The crystalline elder drifted back. "And what if your refusal destroys us all?" Elias met its gaze. "Then we'll take responsibility. That's what we do." The council did not applaud. They did not agree. But they listened. That night, as the ship entered Aurelian core space, the enemy struck again. This time not with weapons. Entire navigation systems across multiple fleets began failing at once. Perfect calculations collapsed. Ships froze, unable to decide on new paths. Panic spread. Aurelian commanders waited for predictions that never came. Elias watched the chaos unfold from the command deck. "Why aren't they moving?" he asked. "They require calculated outcomes," an officer replied. "Without them, action is forbidden." Elias stared at the displays, then stopped calculating. The officer looked horrified. "That would be guessing," Elias said. "Yes, do it anyway." Valera turned to him. "Explain." "Split the fleets," Elias said quickly. "Random patterns, no symmetry, no optimal routes, just movement." "This violates every protocol," the officer said. "Exactly," Elias replied. There was hesitation, fear. Then Valera nodded. "Do it." The fleets moved, not efficiently, not beautifully, but they moved. The enemy's interference weakened. Its predictions failed to lock onto targets. For the first time, Aurelian ships escaped an attack without losses. The command deck was silent. An officer whispered, "Impossible." Elias sagged against a console, exhausted. "No," he said, "just human." Valera looked at him, something like awe in her expression. Later, alone again, Elias stared out into space. He still did not want this destiny. But the galaxy was already changing around him, and far away, the ancient enemy adjusted its focus once more. The chaos variable had begun to act, and it did not like that at all. The enemy did not retreat after its failure. It learned. In the days that followed the fleet's escape, strange things began to happen across Aurelian space. Communication delays appeared where none had existed before. Supply routes bent out of alignment. Automated systems gave answers that were technically correct but dangerously incomplete. The enemy was no longer trying to stop movement. It was trying to understand humans. Elias Moore felt the change before anyone explained it to him. The looks he received were no longer only hostile or curious. Some were fearful, others were thoughtful. He was being studied not as a problem but as a key. That made him uneasy. He stood inside a training chamber, watching Aurelian officers simulate battle scenarios. The room projected three-dimensional starfields and enemy forms made of light. The officers moved with grace and precision, following plans calculated seconds before execution. They still lost. Every simulation ended the same way. Perfect moves, perfect responses, perfect defeat. Elias rubbed his temples. "You're trying to outthink something that already knows how you think." An officer turned to him. "Then what is the alternative, human Elias?" "Stop trying to win," Elias said. "Try to survive first." The officer blinked. "Those are the same." "No," Elias said softly. "They really are." Princess Valera watched from a raised platform. She had changed since their first meeting, not in appearance but in presence. There was less distance now, less certainty. "Show us," she said. Elias stepped into the projection field. "Run it again," he said, "but remove priority goals, no protecting territory, no holding lines." A murmur spread. "Then what do we protect?" someone asked. "People," Elias replied, "ships, time." The simulation restarted. This time when enemy forces appeared, Elias ordered retreats instead of engagements. Fleets scattered instead of forming patterns. Traps were avoided, not challenged. The result was messy, but the fleets survived. The room fell quiet. Valera descended from the platform. "You are teaching us to abandon pride." "I'm teaching you to live," Elias said. That night, Elias sat alone in his quarters, staring at a small personal device. A recorded message from Earth played on silent loop, his sister laughing, recorded years ago. He wondered if she was safe, if Earth even understood what was coming. A soft knock interrupted his thoughts. Valera entered, her expression serious. "The Council has reached a partial conclusion," she said. Elias sighed. "Let me guess, they don't like me." "They fear you," Valera corrected, "and fear often turns into resistance." "What kind of resistance?" Valera hesitated. "Political, cultural. Some believe eliminating the variable is safer than embracing it. Elias felt a cold weight settle in his chest. They want me gone. Yes, dead, contained, she said, isolated, silenced. Elias laughed bitterly. Figures. Valera stepped closer. I will not allow it. That's easy to say, Elias replied. Harder to do. Before she could answer, alarms sounded again, but not sharp, not urgent. Low. Constant, a warning tone, an officer's voice echoed through the ship. Unknown phenomenon detected within core space. The stars outside warped, not violently, gently, as if reality itself was being folded. Elias felt dizzy. That's not an attack. No, Valera said quietly. It is arrival. The enemy did not come as ships or weapons. It came as influence. Probability collapsed around certain systems. Decisions became impossible. Commanders froze, trapped between equal outcomes. Entire fleets stopped responding. The enemy was learning to remove choice. Elias ran to the command deck. Screens showed frozen ships drifting without damage, without power loss. They're not destroyed, Elias said. They're paused. They are caught between futures, an analyst replied. The enemy has created perfect balance. Elias clenched his jaw. Perfect balance is just another kind of prison. Valera turned to him. Then break it. How? An officer demanded. Every option leads to failure. Elias closed his eyes. Then he smiled faintly. Good, he said. Pick the wrong one. The room stared at him. Assign random commands, Elias said. Even bad ones, especially bad ones. Tell ships to do things that don't make sense. That will cause losses, someone said. Yes, Elias replied, but it will also cause change. Valera studied him. You are asking us to accept sacrifice without certainty. That's what being human is, Elias said. She raised her hand. Do it. Commands went out. Some ships collided. Some systems failed. Some crews barely survived, but the balance broke. The frozen fleets began to move again. The enemy reacted instantly, shifting influence, trying to restore equilibrium. Elias leaned forward. It's reacting emotionally. An analyst shook their head. That is impossible. No, Elias said. It's frustrated. The enemy had never faced irrational opposition before, and it hated that. A wave of distortion swept across the system, stronger than before. Consoles flickered. Gravity shifted. Elias stumbled, catching himself on a railing. Valera grabbed his arm. It is focusing on you. Then let it, Elias said through clenched teeth. I'll keep making noise. Suddenly, the ship lurched violently. An energy surge tore through the hull, not lethal but destabilizing. Emergency fields activated. Elias was thrown to the floor. Pain flared through his shoulder. When he looked up, he saw Valera shielding him, her armor scorched. Why did you do that? He demanded. Because, she said, breathing hard, you matter. Elias stared at her. You barely know me. I know what you represent, she replied. And I am beginning to know who you are. Medics rushed in, but before they could reach them, the distortion vanished. The enemy withdrew, for now. In the aftermath, the cost became clear. Several ships were lost. Lives were gone. The council erupted. This proves it, one delegate shouted. Humans bring chaos and death. Elias stood before them, injured but unbroken. No, he said, it proves we can fight something you can't. You lost ships, another accused. Yes, Elias said, and we saved fleets. Silence fell. Valera stepped beside him. The enemy adapts to perfection, she said, but it struggles against choice, against sacrifice. The crystalline elder spoke again. The prophecy spoke of a union, it said slowly. We assumed it was political. It's not, Elias said. It's philosophical. The elder studied him. You are willing to bear guilt. Yes, Elias replied, because doing nothing is worse. The council withdrew to deliberate. Hours passed. When they returned, their decision was not unanimous, but it was final. The union would proceed. Not as a ceremony, as a strategy. Elias sat alone afterward, staring at his bandaged arm. The weight of what he had accepted pressed down on him. Valera joined him quietly. "You are no longer just a variable," she said. "You are a leader." "I never wanted that," Elias said. "Neither did I," she replied. "Yet here we are." They stood together in silence, watching stars drift past. Far beyond their sight, the ancient enemy shifted again. It had learned something new. Humans were not simply unpredictable, they were contagious. And the galaxy was beginning to change. The galaxy did not give Elias more time to rest after the Council's decision. The enemy had withdrawn, but it had not left. It was watching, learning, and preparing. Everyone felt it, like a quiet pressure in the back of the mind. The Union was announced across Aurelian space and then beyond it. Not as a romantic tale, not as a fairy story, but as a warning and a promise. Humanity and the Aurelian Empire would stand together, not because prophecy demanded it, but because survival required it. Reactions were mixed. Some alien worlds protested, some threatened to leave the alliance. Others watched carefully, curious and afraid. Humans, when they heard the news, were confused at first, then proud, then worried. Elias became something he never wanted to be, a symbol. He trained constantly, not as a warrior but as a bridge. He learned alien customs, command structures, and ways of thinking. At the same time, human advisors were brought in, engineers, medics, pilots, thinkers who questioned everything. The Aurelian military began to change. Rigid formations loosened. Backup plans gained backup plans. Commanders were encouraged to trust instincts, not just numbers. Mistakes were analyzed, not punished. Losses still happened, but the enemy no longer controlled the rhythm of war. Princess Valera worked beside Elias, not above him. She listened when humans argued, even when it made no sense to her. Elias listened when Aurelian spoke of patience and long vision, even when it frustrated him. They did not always agree. That was the point. The enemy struck again without warning. This time it did not target fleets. It targeted hope. Across dozens of systems, stars dimmed unnaturally. Not dying, but muted, as if reality itself was being smothered. Entire populations felt despair without knowing why. Communication filled with doubt, fear, and hesitation. The enemy had learned another lesson. If it could not predict humans, it would exhaust them. Elias stood on the command platform as reports poured in. "They're not attacking directly," he said. "They're trying to make us stop fighting." Valera nodded slowly. "They believe morale is a calculation." Elias smiled grimly. "Then they don't understand us at all." He turned to the gathered commanders, human and alien alike. "We can't outpower this thing. And we can't wait it out, so we do what humans always do." A human captain raised an eyebrow. "Which is?" "We show up," Elias said, "everywhere, even where it doesn't make sense." The plan was risky and uneven. Small groups of ships spread out across affected systems, not to fight but to help. They repaired stations, delivered supplies, told stories, shared music, shared presence. No perfect strategy, just connection. The enemy reacted with confusion. Its influence weakened in places where people refused to give in to despair. Not because fear vanished, but because it was faced together. Then the final move came. A massive distortion appeared at the edge of known space, larger than anything before. Not an invasion force, but a convergence point. A place where the enemy's influence became almost physical. The heart. If it stabilized, the galaxy would slowly freeze into inaction forever. If it was attacked directly, it would adapt instantly. Elias stared at the projection in silence. Valera spoke softly. "This is where it ends." "Yes," Elias said, "one way or another." The Alliance gathered what forces it could. Humans brought ships that were old, modified, and sometimes barely held together. Aurelians brought their most advanced vessels, now adjusted for flexibility instead of perfection. As they prepared, the time for ceremony arrived. Not a grand event, no celebration, just a simple gathering aboard the flagship. Elias stood beside Valera, surrounded by witnesses from many worlds. There were no vows about love or eternity, only shared intent. To stand together, Valera said. To choose action, Elias replied. To accept uncertainty and responsibility. The bond was sealed not by ritual alone but by command authority shared across fleets. Two minds, two cultures, one choice. The fleet moved toward the convergence. As they approached, systems failed. Sensors contradicted themselves. Space twisted in ways that made no sense. Some ships turned back, unable to proceed. Others pushed forward anyway. The enemy's presence pressed down like gravity. Voices filled calm channels, whispering doubt, showing futures where everyone failed. Elias heard them too. He ignored them. Cut prediction engines, he ordered. Several alien officers hesitated. Valera nodded once. Do it. The screens went dark, replaced by raw visuals and manual controls. Chaos. Human pilots smiled. The fleet surged forward unevenly. Ships collided, broke formation, rejoined. No two paths were the same. The enemy struggled. It tried to lock outcomes, but there were too many variables now, too many choices. Elias felt a sudden sharp pain behind his eyes. The enemy was focusing directly on him and Valera. Images flooded his mind: defeat, isolation, endless struggle. He grabbed the console, steadying himself. Valera reached for his hand. Stay with me. I'm here, Elias said through clenched teeth. They pushed closer. At the center of the convergence, reality thinned. Not a creature, not a machine, but a presence. Ancient, vast, and deeply offended. It could not understand why it was losing control. Elias took a breath. Open all channels. Are you sure? An officer asked. No, Elias said, but do it anyway. His voice echoed across space. Not as a command, as a statement. We're here, he said. We don't know how this ends, but we're not stopping. The enemy surged, lashing out. Several ships were lost instantly. Elias did not look away. We don't need to win perfectly, he continued. We just need to keep choosing. Something shifted. The convergence destabilized, not collapsing but unraveling like a knot pulled the wrong way. Valera felt it too. It cannot hold form without certainty. Then let's give it none, Elias said. Human ships charged forward recklessly, drawing attention. Aurelian ships followed unpredictably, abandoning optimal paths. The heart fractured, not destroyed, disconnected. The enemy's influence broke apart, scattering into harmless noise across probability space. Silence fell. Stars brightened. The surviving ships drifted, damaged but alive. Elias collapsed into his chair, exhausted beyond words. Valera remained standing, steadying the ship. When she finally turned to him, her eyes were wet, not from weakness but relief. It's over, she said. For now, Elias replied. In the days that followed, the galaxy slowly realized what had happened. The enemy was not gone forever, but it was no longer inevitable. Humanity's place changed overnight. No longer a minor species, no longer underestimated. They were partners. Catalysts, the reminder that survival was not about perfection but persistence. Elias stood once more at a viewport, stars stretching endlessly before him. Valera joined him, no crown floating above her head this time. What happens next? He asked. She smiled faintly. We keep choosing. Elias nodded. The galaxy would never be the same, because one human had refused to follow destiny and instead helped rewrite it.